TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening. I am Ayan Hessen, and this is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Israel increases humanitarian aid flow into the Gaza Strip. Britain has decided to end trade talks with Israel over what British Foreign Secretary David Lammy claims is Prime Minister Netanyahu's government's handling of the Gaza Strip. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has reaffirmed the Trump administration's unwavering support for the State of Israel. Israel is doubling down on entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, while the IDF further intensifies its operational activities against the Islamist Hamas terror organization. IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir delivered a national address in which he reminded the public of why Israel was compelled to wage war in the Gaza Strip.
I have just concluded a situational assessment and a field tour with the soldiers and commanders operating in the Gaza Strip as part of Operation Gideon's Chariots. In recent days, the IDF has launched a new phase in the ongoing operations in the Gaza Strip. This is a war we did not choose, but one that was forced upon us on the dark day of October 7th, when Hamas attacked the State of Israel with unprecedented brutality. This was not a military assault. It was a horrifying crime against innocent civilians, an act of terror against the State of Israel and against the Jewish people. Since that terrible day, the IDF has been operating with strength and determination in a multi-front war against enemies whose goal is our destruction. We struck Hamas hard, eliminated its senior commanders, dismantled critical terrorist infrastructure, eliminated thousands of terrorists, and delivered painful blows to our enemies on additional fronts. We have paid a heavy price. We have lost some of our best soldiers, our brothers and sisters in arms, who we will never forget. This is the price this generation bears for the freedom of our entire people. Hamas has been severely weakened, but unfortunately, the war against them has not yet been won.
General Zamir further reiterated Israel's war objectives, to include the return of all hostages to their homes, the decisive defeat of Hamas, and the dismantling of its regime. And while the fighting intensifies, General Zamir also sought to reassure the families of those held hostages, who have endured 593 days of brutal conditions in Hamas captivity.
I am fully aware of the concern and anguish experienced by the families of the hostages and of the questions raised by the combination of these objectives. It is a complex challenge, but we possess the tools, wisdom, and responsibility to meet it. I, along with every soldier in the IDF, will continue to act tirelessly until all our hostages are brought home. If there is an agreement, the IDF will know how to adjust its operations accordingly.
Amid escalating international criticism directed at Israel, and particularly the IDF, rooted in blatant disinformation campaigns propagated via social media platforms such as China's TikTok and Qatar's Al Jazeera network, among others, General Zamir condemned the ongoing efforts to demonize the IDF and the State of Israel.
The IDF operates at all times in accordance with IDF values, Israeli law, and international law, while maintaining an uncompromising commitment to the security of the State of Israel and its civilians. Any statement that casts doubt on the integrity of our actions or the morality of our soldiers is baseless. Our highest moral and ethical duty is to protect our civilians, to protect Nir Oz, Nahal Oz, Steret, and Ofakim against an immoral enemy, among the most brutal in human history. We are in a long, multi-front war, one we did not choose. We are facing a complex and difficult period, but a better time will come at its end. I will lead this campaign based on one consideration only, the security of the State of Israel and the protection of our civilians. I appeal to everyone, now is the time to support and unite around the IDF soldiers in order to achieve the goals of the war. Together we will fight. Together we will prevail. Our actions will speak for themselves.
Meanwhile, the Islamist Hamas organization publicly praised British Prime Minister Keir Starmer for doubling down on his anti-Israel rhetoric and issuing a renewed condemnation.
But first, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say something about the horrific situation in Gaza, where the level of suffering, innocent children being bombed again, is utterly intolerable. Mr. Speaker, over the weekend we coordinated a response with our allies, as set out in my statement with President Macron and Prime Minister Carney last night. And I want to put on record today that we're horrified by the escalation from Israel. We repeat our demand for a ceasefire as the only way to free the hostages. We repeat our opposition to settlements in the West Bank. And we repeat our demand to massively scale up humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
In addition to the Prime Minister's criticism, Britain's top diplomat took a further step by implementing measures that reflect a shift in the UK policy towards Israel.
I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. We will be reviewing cooperation with them under the 2030 bilateral roadmap. The Netanyahu's government's actions have made this necessary, Madam Deputy Speaker. Today, my honourable friend, the Minister for the Middle East, is summoning the Israeli ambassador to the Foreign Office to convey this message.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, residents of the Israeli capital have voiced growing frustration over the latest wave of international sentiment perceived as unfairly critical of the Jewish state.
I think they're a bunch of hypocrites. They care more about virtue signaling to their voters than helping the situation in the Middle East. And if they truly wanted to help the Palestinian people, they would do everything to join the United States program of delivering humanitarian aid via foreign companies and make sure that this aid won't go to Hamas, because the only way to help all sides in the Middle East is to kick out the Palestinian terror organizations from the regime.
I think it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not about the other countries in the world. It's not about the other people in the world. It's about us. It's about the Jews, and about us understanding our place in the world and our meaning and our purpose. And if we know, if we are willing to commit to who we are and what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to behave, for better or for worse, then things will be better. And it doesn't matter what other people think. What matters is how we act, how we behave.
I think it's sad. I think it's a really difficult time in the world right now. I think it's a very difficult time in Israel, very misunderstood time. And I can only hope that the war ends soon, that the hostages are returned, and that we can find a way to have good relationships with the rest of the world again.
It is important to note that at the request of the United Nations and in coordination with the United States, over 100 trucks have delivered humanitarian aid to the residents of the Gaza Strip.
We have requested and received approval of more trucks to enter today. Many more than were approved yesterday. And we expect, of course, with that approval, many of them, hopefully all of them, to cross today to a point where they can be picked up and get further into the Gaza Strip for distribution.
Turning to Washington, where U.S. Secretary Marco Rubio acknowledged that the Trump administration welcomed the delivery of humanitarian aid into Gaza. However, during a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing, Washington's top diplomat pushed back against allegations suggesting that Israel is deliberately using humanitarian aid as a strategic tool in its military campaign.
I don't think you would have seen the events of the last couple of days without our engagement, the engagement of others. Israel remains a strong ally. We're supportive. We understand why, for their security, Hamas cannot exist. We are also very happy to see that they have allowed aid to begin to flow, and we hope that that will continue. Well, we don't view that that's their strategy. We understand that they are targeting elements of Hamas, is what they have claimed and said to us and to the world, that they believe that they need to root out the remaining elements of Hamas, who, by the way, have been an impediment to multiple ceasefires that I know have been negotiated and even agreed upon by Hamas external and then vetoed by Hamas internal.
Secretary Rubio was also questioned regarding reports that the Trump administration has considered deporting Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Libya, a claim that continues to spark controversy.
No, there's no deportation. What we have talked to some nations about is if someone voluntarily and willingly says, I want to go somewhere else for some period of time because I'm sick, because my children need to go to school or what have you, are there countries in the region willing to accept them for some period of time? But those would be voluntary decisions by individuals.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to take this moment to urge you to pray for the 58 hostages who have endured 593 days in Hamas captivity. Please also pray for the IDF soldiers operating in the Gaza Strip and for the peace of Jerusalem. Separately, if you've been blessed by TV7 Israel, which is exclusively funded by our viewers, please consider supporting our productions with a donation. You can do so at our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I am Ayan Hessen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and we will see you again during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.